Hi, everyone, and welcome to this episode of Soul Seeds, where Polly is my guest expert for today. And Polly is a mentor to conscious entrepreneurs. And the topic we are going to discuss today is living with purpose. So, thank you, Polly, for being here. And
Thank
I
you
would
for
love
having
to
me.
dive right in and ask you, like, why is it so important to live with a purpose?
I think that the questions of, what is the meaning of life? Who
Mm-hmm,
am I? Why am I here? What am I here to do? They're the big questions that have always been there. And there's a
mm-hmm,
reason that they've always been there, is because we want to do something that means something to us with our
mm-hmm,
lives, and not to do something that we've been told to do
mm-hmm.
or we're expected to do. So if we're not given an opportunity to find out who we are, and we're too busy doing things to find out who we are, we
Mm-hmm.
kind of end up getting lost.
Right.
Um, and when I say a sense of purpose, it doesn't have to be a grandiose, big sense of purpose. It can simply be like a charter, if you like, for how you want to live your life,
Mm-hmm.
or how you want to show up in life. It doesn't have to be too complicated. It's not really big, but I think most people are pulled towards doing something in particular.
Mm-hmm.
But I think the important thing about living with a sense of purpose is that it's not what you do,
Mm-hmm.
but how you do it that holds the key to your
Yeah,
sense of
because we tend to
purpose.
confuse it with like what our job is
Oh God,
instead of
yes.
how we live and how
Mhm.
we present ourselves as a human being.
Yes, absolutely. And it's kind of really difficult then, because you label yourself
Right.
when you're not a label. You're much
Mm-hmm.
more than a label. You are um you're a way of being,
Mm-hmm.
not necessarily stuck in something. And when you label yourself, then you end up getting stuck with that label and you can't
Right.
shake it.
Mm.
So I think it's important to recognize that every single one of us has a very unique perspective and way of approaching things,
Mm-hmm.
which is incredibly valuable. Um, and through all of your life experiences, this perspective and way of approaching things has been showing up for
Mm-hmm.
you all the
Right.
time. It's like you've got these traits that show up, and they're rooted in your values and what you want to create. They're
Mm-hmm.
really important from that point of view. If you thought about some of your big life experiences
Mm-hmm.
that you've learned through them either what you're capable of,
Mm-hmm.
or the way that you've approached them has shown you how you can grow through them.
Mm.
So both those things come up in your life experiences, and they speak volumes um, about you and what
Mm-hmm.
you're capable of doing. So the key is not necessarily in testing yourself to discover what you could do,
Mm-hmm.
but reflecting on what life has shown you can do.
Mm-hmm.
So it's already there. You've already lived your purpose.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the thing, isn't it? We tend to think, oh, my purpose is out there. It's in the
Mm-hmm.
future. But
Right.
you're already there. If you're living with your values and your desires to create,
Mm-hmm.
and you are learning through your experiences, then you're already a long way towards understanding a sense of purpose and sense
Mm-hmm.
of direction in your life. And through all of those experiences, there's a thread. In
Mm-hmm.
my experience, there's a thread that you can come back to that is your purpose. And although it's inside of all of your experiences, it's also
Mm-hmm.
out there to guide you forward, because
Mm.
you're kind of seeing yourself and saying, oh, this is what lights me up. This is,
Mm-hmm.
if I get into a group situation,
Mm-hmm.
then I'm the one who brings this particular aspect, or and that tells you what you're contributing. And if you're contributing, then you have a sense of purpose.
Mm-hmm.
So, what you've lived through has already shown you your strengths, your passions, your desires, and you can use those to shape your way forward and bring more of that into that. So I think the most difficult thing is valuing yourself, because am I important enough to be contributing in this way? Am I going to be valued? It brings up a lot of challenges, but it's there, you know?
Yeah, we have to recognize our worth, really.
Yeah, we do. And my experience, because I work with entrepreneurs, is that often when you bring together all these parts of your life and you say, oh, this is who I am and I want to do something with it. Sometimes the label doesn't exist and you have to go create it. I think that's possibly why so many people are becoming entrepreneurs now, because they don't want to be boxed in. There isn't a label that fits them. They want to do something completely new because they're bringing all of the parts of themselves together in some weird and wonderful, unique mix that is offering something that nobody else can. And I think everybody has that within them. They have the ability to offer what no one else can. That's why it's so important to use the label. And I think my experience says that, you know, one of the most important things that we can do is be prepared to be out of the ordinary, because everybody is exactly that. They are extraordinary. They are out of the ordinary.
So when we state that we have to find our purpose, we don't really have to look for it on the outside. It's already within us. We just have to open ourselves up to the experiences that have shaped it.
Absolutely. I really do. I think that when you blend, you combine all the parts of you, you create according to who you are. That's when your purpose starts to speak to you. You start to hear the call of your purpose. It's there. It's just saying, come on. This is what you love. This is what you're built for. This is what you offer, and you learn to value yourself enough to offer it. So I think it's, even though it's one of the biggest questions in life, it's also one of the, paradoxically, one of the easiest to answer.
And does a life like in purpose mean that it always is in flow, or that everything is going right? No. I had to
Rarely does it ever go like that. No, it's whatever life throws at you is being able to know this is who I am. And so I'm going to be okay because I'm going to find my own way through the situation. I'm going to tap into the skills that I have to create a solution. And I'm going to hold true to my values as I move through this. That to me is what it's about. Because then you're living with a sense of truth in your life that makes you feel good about your life and the choices that you make. And God, don't we get a lot of guilt thrown at us for the choices that we make? And you know, it's not about being selfish, because I think a lot of people think, oh, if I do this for me, then I'm being selfish. Oh gosh, and that's such a tough one. But it's not about being selfish. It's about saying that I am a better person when I'm a whole person.
Right.
And I am able to be more present because I'm a whole person.
Yeah, and I always say you can't give from an empty cup. I mean, I have to fill my own cup first before I can give to others.
Yeah, I do think culturally that's sort of in a place where we're at. A lot of people are filling their cups,
right,
because the cups have got emptied. They're bone dry and they need to be filled. So we're going through a very transitional space in our cultures about where do we move from being sort of inner focused and focused on ourselves. And the reason that purpose is so important is because I think we're in that phase now of turning that out and saying, well, if this is who I am, what do I do with it? How am I living with a sense of purpose? How am I living with a sense of contribution? How am I putting me into motion in society or in my family? It doesn't, you know, when I say society, it doesn't have to be, it's not necessarily about sort of like being really big about it. It's your communities or your family is equally important place to start. But it's how do I do that? So I think we're in that transition phase when people start going, oh right, well, I've been very focused on who I am, maybe healing who I am and feeling better about who I am and resourcing myself. And now it's like, okay, well, now I'm full. I've got the ability to actually turn that outside of me. And that transition is quite scary, because you can be who you are on the inside if it's never tested. The thing is that what happens when you start to speak who you are and put it out into the world, then it's like, oh, am I going to back off because somebody disagreed with me?
Right. Yeah,
And,
because it feels like a scary thing to do for most people, I think, to be your true authentic self. And why is that so difficult for us? Because if that is how we are meant to be.
Because there's the risk of rejection, isn't there? And I think that because we feel safe in community, if we destabilize that, then we put ourselves at risk. So I think that it's quite primal, that fear. And I mean, I always feel so in awe of people who can be totally authentically themselves in every situation. They just show up, they're a force of nature, and you just go, okay, wow.
Yeah, you just feel their energy.
Yeah, absolutely. But for most of us, it's a much more difficult process. We have to do some work on ourselves to get there, but it's worth it. It's worth it because the fulfillment that comes from that, of knowing that this is what I do, this is what I'm good at, this is what lights me up, and I know that people are benefiting around me just because I'm a happier person, or because I'm doing something very specific that I'm very good at. And that it snowballs. Then it's a feel-good factor.
Yeah, it's also like an energy that you spread out when you feel good.
Yes.
It spreads out to others. You affect their energy. It's not just your energy, which is also a good thing, that your energy is uplifted and growing, but you also send it out to the people you love and that are near and dear.
Yeah, absolutely. And they benefit hugely from that. So it's absolutely not, if anybody feels like, oh, I can't do that because that would be selfish, it's not at all.
Yeah. And sometimes it's okay to be selfish.
It is. Sometimes you have to be, but
yeah,
generally
unfortunately,
speaking,
the word selfish has such a negative connotation to it. But it's like, but it's all about the self, same as self-love and self-care, self-healing.
Yeah,
Those are so, and self-worth, of course. It all starts with the self. So please focus
it
on
does.
yourself.
Yes,
Not selfish
absolutely.
to focus on the self.
Yeah.
Thank you so much, Polly. It was a great honor to talk to you. Thank you.
Thank you.